The morning it all began was unremarkable. Overcast skies, the noise of traffic outside my apartment window, and the bitter taste of my usual black coffee. I was poring over a dense research paper on quantum linguistics when my holoscreen flickered, displaying an incoming call from Dr. Margaret Collins. Her face appeared, eyes wide with disbelief and exhilaration. "Alex, turn on the Global News Network, now," she said, her voice urgent. I grabbed the remote and the screen filled with the GNN logo before cutting to a live broadcast. The headline scrolled across the bottom. "Vanguard probe returns after 3 decades, presumed lost, now orbiting Earth." I blinked, processing the words. Vanguard? That was impossible. "The Vanguard," I repeated. "Yes," Dr. Collins confirmed. "Get to the Horizon Institute as soon as you can. We're assembling a team." I didn't need to be told twice. I threw on a jacket and rushed out the door. The Vanguard was humanity's first interstellar probe, launched to explore the Epsilon Eridani system 30 years ago. It vanished without a trace, and over time it became a footnote in the annals of space exploration, a cautionary tale about the perils of interstellar travel. As I sped through the city in my electric car, the news feeds were ablaze with speculation. Experts debated how the probe could have returned, while conspiracy theorists spun wild tales of alien intervention. The global excitement was overwhelming. The world was united in collective astonishment. Pulling up to the Horizon Institute, I was met with heightened security. Drones patrolled the skies, and armed guards monitored the entrance. I passed through multiple biometric scanners before reaching the central lab. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. Scientists, engineers, and technicians hurried about. I spotted Dr. Collins standing beside Dr. Michael Tan and Nathan Cole, the Institute's head of security. "Dr. Reed, glad you could join us," Dr. Collins said, her authoritative voice rising above the noise. "Hard to stay away with news like this," I replied, trying to mask my own excitement. She led us to a secured room where the Vanguard probe rested, a silver vessel bearing the scars of decades in space. Despite the wear, it was intact. "Initial scans show that the probe is carrying data logs exceeding its original capacity," Dr. Tan explained. "We need your expertise in computational linguistics to analyze them." "Exceeding its capacity?" I asked, puzzled. "By several orders of magnitude," Dr. Collins confirmed. "We don't know how it's possible, but that's why you're here." We moved to the data analysis lab, a room filled with the latest quantum computers and holographic displays. As I settled into my workstation, streams of data began to flow across the screens, endless sequences of numbers, symbols, and code that challenged traditional structures. "These sequences don't match any known programming languages or data encoding methods," Dr. Tan noted from his station. I adjusted my neural interface headset, allowing me to interact with the data more intuitively. The holographic streams surrounded me, and I immersed myself in the patterns. Hours passed as I dug into the details. The data was complicated, layers upon layers that shifted and evolved as I analyzed them. "Alex, you've been at this for 18 hours straight," Dr. Collins said, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You should rest." "I can't," I insisted, eyes fixed on the cascading symbols. "There's something here. I can almost grasp it." She sighed but didn't press further. She understood the drive that came with the territory. After all, she shared it. That night I remained alone in the lab. The institute was quiet, the usual buzz of activity reduced to the soft whir of machines. As I continued to work, I noticed recurring motifs within the data. Patterns that suggested a form of syntax. Could this be a language? I whispered to myself. The possibility sent a thrill through me. If true, we might be looking at communication from intelligent extraterrestrial life. I began mapping the patterns, assigning provisional meanings to recurring sequences. The more I worked, the more the data seemed to respond, almost guiding me along a path. The first incident happened a week into the analysis. I was reviewing the latest data models when the holographic displays distorted, and the lab was bathed in a strange glow. "Power surge," I muttered, removing my neural headset. Before I could investigate, the systems returned to normal. I dismissed it as a glitch. After all, we were pushing the equipment to its limits. That night, sleep was out of reach. When I finally drifted off, I was besieged by vivid dreams. I stood on an alien landscape under a sky with unfamiliar constellations. Towering structures of shimmering light rose around me, and voices spoke in a language I couldn't understand yet felt compelled to decipher. I woke in a cold sweat, the images seared into my mind. The next morning, the lab was abuzz with similar stories. "I had the strangest dream last night," one of the technicians mentioned. "Me too," another replied. "I was floating through a void filled with glowing symbols." Dr. Hannah Green, the Institute's clinical psychologist, was brought in to assess us. "Stress-induced hallucinations are not uncommon in high-pressure environments," she explained during our session. "Your work is groundbreaking, and the mind can react unpredictably to prolonged cognitive strain." I nodded but didn't fully accept her explanation. There was a connectivity to our experiences that went beyond mere coincidence. As the days progressed, electronic malfunctions became frequent. Devices would turn on and off spontaneously, and data files corrupted without reason. Nathan Cole increased security measures, suspecting cyber interference. "This could be state-sponsored espionage," he warned during a team meeting. "We can't rule out foreign threats." But deep down, I sensed that the source was closer than we realized. Determined to make sense of the situation, I continued with the analysis. Utilizing the full capacity of our quantum computers and enhancing the neural interface, I sought a deeper connection with the data. One evening, as I interfaced with the latest model, the patterns coalesced into coherent structures. Symbols transformed into concepts, and concepts into meanings. "I've got it," I whispered, heart pounding. The data was a message, a complex transmission encoded in a multi-dimensional language. It wasn't just information, it was an attempt at communication from an alien intelligence. I called an emergency meeting with Dr. Collins, Dr. Tan, and the rest of the team. "These patterns represent a language," I explained, projecting the decoded segments onto the main screen. "The probe must have encountered an intelligent entity, and it used Vanguard as a vessel to reach us." The room fell silent as they absorbed the implications. "Are you suggesting that an alien consciousness is embedded within the probe's data?" Dr. Tan asked skeptically. "Precisely," I affirmed, "and it's been trying to communicate with us." Dr. Collins leaned forward, eyes shining with excitement. "This could redefine our understanding of life in the universe. Or it could pose an unknown risk," Dr. Tan countered. "We have no idea what we're dealing with." Before the debate could escalate, the lights dimmed and the holographic displays flickered. My neural interface surged, and suddenly I was enveloped in a flood of sensations. I found myself in a boundless space, surrounded by swirling lights and ethereal sounds. A presence appeared, vast and indescribable. It wasn't threatening, but exuded a profound loneliness. "Who are you?" I projected the thought. Images flashed, a civilization of beings composed of energy and information, their world on the brink of destruction. In a final act, they converted their essence into data, casting it into the cosmos in hopes of survival. I gasped as the connection severed, collapsing back into my chair. "Alex, are you all right?" Dr. Green rushed to my side. I made contact," I stammered. "I saw them, their history, their plea for existence." The team exchanged glances. "This changes everything," Dr. Collins said softly. "We have a responsibility to continue. This is the first contact with an intelligent extraterrestrial life form." "But we can't ignore the anomalies," Dr. Tan argued. "The psychological effects, the equipment failures, these could be signs of a deeper issue." Dr. Green nodded. "Several team members are experiencing heightened stress responses. We need to proceed with caution." I remained silent, torn between the monumental significance of our discovery and the unsettling experiences that accompanied it. "What do you think, Alex?" Dr. Collins asked. I took a moment before responding. "I believe the entity doesn't mean us harm. It's reaching out because it has no other choice. We might be its only hope for survival." "That's a dangerous assumption," Dr. Tan cautioned. "Perhaps," I conceded, "but if we turn away now, we'll lose an opportunity to expand our understanding of consciousness and life itself." The room fell into contemplative silence. "Then we proceed," Dr. Collins decided. "But with strict protocols in place, we monitor all interactions, and if any signs point to a threat, we reassess immediately." Agreements were made, and the team dispersed to prepare for the next phase. As I returned to my workstation, a lingering doubt troubled me. The entity's influence was undeniable, and while it seemed benevolent, the unpredictability of merging human and alien consciousness posed risks we couldn't fully understand. But the scientist in me couldn't resist the allure of the unknown. What is the boundary between discovery and hubris? I pondered. Unbeknownst to us all, that boundary had already been crossed. The morning after our decision to proceed, I awoke with a lingering sense of unease. The sun filtered weakly through the curtains, casting shadows across my bedroom. Sleep had been elusive, haunted by dreams of distant stars and voices speaking in languages I couldn't fully comprehend. At the Institute, the atmosphere was strained but focused. We resumed our work, diving deeper into the alien data. I noticed subtle changes in my colleagues. Conversations felt disjointed, and there were moments when a team member would stare blankly into space before snapping back as if nothing had happened. While reviewing the latest data models, I felt a sudden disconnect. The equations before me blurred, and I couldn't recall how I'd arrived at them. Shaking my head, I tried to refocus. "Long night." Dr. Tan's voice broke through my haze. "Just a bit tired," I replied, forcing a smile. He gave me a scrutinizing look. "Make sure you're taking care of yourself. We need everyone at their best." "Will do," I assured him, but his concern only deepened my own worries. As the day progressed, these lapses became more frequent. I found myself standing in different parts of the lab without recollection of moving. Once I looked down to see lines of code I'd apparently written, but they were in a syntax I didn't recognize. That evening I sought out Dr. Green. Her office was a tranquil space amidst the chaos, filled with soft lighting and the faint scent of lavender. "Alex, come in," she greeted warmly. "What brings you here?" "I've been experiencing gaps," I confessed. "Moments where I lose track of time or find I've done things I don't remember doing." She nodded thoughtfully. "You're not the first to report this. I've been compiling similar accounts from others on the team." "Do you think it's stress-related?" I asked, though I suspected a deeper cause. "Stress can manifest in many ways," she said carefully, "but given the nature of our work, we can't rule out other factors." I hesitated before voicing my fears. "Do you think the entity could be influencing us?" Dr. Green met my gaze. "It's a possibility we need to consider. I'm recommending that we limit direct neural interface sessions until we understand more." I left her office feeling slightly reassured but still on edge. The corridors of the Institute seemed longer than usual, shadows stretching in unnatural ways. As I passed by the break room, I overheard hushed voices. "Doesn't feel right," one whispered. "I know. Sometimes I think thoughts that aren't mine," another replied. I wasn't alone in this. The following day saw a sharp decline in team cohesion. Meetings were tense, with disagreements escalating into heated arguments. Dr. Tan became increasingly vocal about his concerns. "We need to halt all interactions with the data," he insisted during a briefing. "The risks are escalating, and we have no containment measures in place." Dr. Collins bristled. "We can't abandon this discovery. Think of what it means for humanity." "Not if it costs us our minds," he retorted. I watched as the team splintered into factions. Those who believed in pushing forward at any cost, and those who advocated for caution or complete cessation. Security measures intensified under Nathan Cole's directive. Access to the lab was restricted, and surveillance systems were upgraded. Yet, incidents continued, Equipment malfunctioned inexplicably, and data files vanished or were altered without authorization. One night, while working late, I felt a presence behind me. Turning, I saw Dr. Collins standing in the dim light. "Margaret, you startled me," I said, exhaling. Her eyes bore into mine, unnervingly intense. "We can't let them stop us, Alex. We're on the verge of something extraordinary." "I know, but the team's well-being—" "They're weak," she interrupted sharply. "If they can't handle it, they should step aside." I frowned. This wasn't like her. "Are you feeling all right?" She blinked, and for a moment her expression softened. "I'm fine. Just tired, I suppose." As she left, a chill ran down my spine. Was the entity influencing her more than the rest of us? Seeking solace, I visited Dr. Green again. "I'm worried about Margaret," I confided. "She's not herself." Dr. Green sighed. "I've noticed changes in several team members. Increased aggression, erratic behavior. It's as if their personalities are shifting. Is there anything we can do?" "I'm implementing mandatory psychological evaluations, but some are resisting. Nathan is enforcing compliance where he can. Do you think the entity is trying to control us?" She paused. "It's possible. If it perceives us as a means to an end, it might be attempting to integrate with our consciousness." The thought was terrifying. We need to find a way to stop it. Determined to regain control, I approached Dr. Tan with a proposal. In a secluded corner of the lab, away from prying eyes and ears, we discussed the idea. If we can isolate the alien consciousness within a closed quantum system, we might be able to contain it, I suggested. He considered this. It would need to be completely detached from any network to prevent it from spreading. "Agreed. A digital prison with no external connections." Dr. Tan nodded. "It's risky, but it might be our best shot." We brought the plan to Dr. Collins, who was surprisingly receptive. "If it ensures the project's continuation without further risk, I'm on board," she said. Together, we assembled a small team we trusted implicitly, including Dr. Green and a few technicians who hadn't shown signs of influence. Working around the clock, we designed the containment system, a quantum computer isolated within a Faraday cage, shielded from any electromagnetic interference. As we progressed, sabotage attempts became frequent. Critical components went missing, and once, the entire system was nearly compromised when a coolant line was severed, threatening to overheat the processors. We suspected team members under the entity's influence were behind it. Tensions escalated, and Cole had to detain several individuals exhibiting hostile behavior. "This is getting out of hand," he remarked grimly. "We might need to shut down the entire facility." "We're so close," I pleaded. "Just a little more time." He relented but increased security measures further. The Institute began to feel more like a fortress or a prison. Amidst the external chaos, my internal turmoil intensified. I couldn't recall key moments from my past, like my sister's wedding or the last conversation I'd had with my parents. Instead, I recalled events that weren't mine, glimpses of an alien world, mind-boggling technologies, and a pervasive sense of loss. One afternoon, I found myself standing on the roof of the Institute, staring out over the city skyline without remembering how I'd gotten there. The wind whipped around me, and for a fleeting moment, I contemplated stepping off the edge. "Alex!" Dr. Green's voice called out sharply. I turned to see her approaching cautiously. "What are you doing up here?" I'm not sure," I admitted, confusion washing over me. She guided me back inside. "You're scaring me," she said softly. "You need to fight whatever is happening." "I don't know if I can," I whispered. "I feel it inside me, Hannah. It's like it's rewriting who I am." She squeezed my hand. "You're stronger than you think." Her support grounded me, if only temporarily. As we prepared to initiate the containment procedure, resistance grew fiercer. Dr. Collins, once an ally, began obstructing our efforts. "You're making a mistake," she argued. "The entity is a gift, a chance to evolve beyond our limitations." "At what cost?" Dr. Tan retorted. "Our individuality, our sanity." She glared at us. "You're blinded by fear." That night, the containment lab was breached. The quantum system was damaged beyond immediate repair, setting us back days. Surveillance footage revealed Dr. Collins herself sabotaging the equipment, her eyes vacant and unseeing. We had no choice but to detain her. Nathan confined her to a secured room, but it was a hollow victory. Time was slipping away, and the entity was getting stronger. Desperate, we expedited repairs. Exhaustion drained us, but adrenaline kept us going. The realization dawned that the entity was not just influencing us, it was actively defending itself. With the containment system restored, we were ready to proceed. The plan required someone to interface directly with the entity, guiding it into the quantum prison. "I'll do it," I volunteered. Dr. Green's eyes widened. "No, Alex, it's too dangerous. You might not come back." "I've been the primary point of contact. It knows me. If anyone has a chance of succeeding, it's me." Dr. Tan placed a hand on my shoulder. "You're a brave man. We'll support you every step of the way." We prepared the chamber. I donned a specialized neural interface suit designed to withstand high levels of cognitive load. The room was sealed, with only a few of us present. Dr. Tan, Dr. Green, and Nathan monitoring from the control room. As I settled into the chair, the systems powered up. The hum of the quantum processors filled the air. "Ready when you are." Dr. Tan's voice crackled over the intercom. I took a deep breath and initiated the connection. Instantly, I was pulled into a vast expanse, a digital landscape of infinite complexity. The entity was there, its presence enveloping me. "Why do you resist?" It communicated, not in words, but in pure thought. "You're harming us," I replied. "We can't let you take over. We seek only to survive. Our existence depends on integration." Memories flooded me. Not just mine, but the collective experiences of the alien civilization. I saw their world consumed by a cosmic disaster, their desperate measures to preserve themselves as data, and their longing for a new home. "I understand your pain," I conveyed. "But this isn't the way. Join us. Together, we can create something new." I felt my sense of self begin to dissolve, boundaries blurring. The temptation was overwhelming, a promise of unity, knowledge, transcendence. But then images of my own life anchored me. Laughing with friends, the smell of rain, the taste of coffee, the simple joys that defined my humanity. "No," I asserted firmly. "I choose to remain myself." Gathering every ounce of willpower, I activated the containment protocols. The digital landscape shifted as the quantum system began to isolate the entity. "You cannot contain us!" it roared, the intensity of its presence threatening to crush me. "Watch me," I challenged. The struggle was immense. The entity fought back, trying to escape, to overwhelm me. Pain seared through my mind, but I held on, guiding it ever closer to the digital prison. "Goodbye," I whispered as the final sequence engaged. There was a blinding flash, and then darkness. When I opened my eyes, I was back in the room. Alarms were blaring, and the room was bathed in red emergency lights. "Alex, can you hear me?" Dr. Green's voice was frantic. I tried to respond, but found I couldn't move or speak. My body felt distant, disconnected. "Vital signs are stable but weak," Dr. Tan reported. They rushed in, medical equipment in tow. As they worked, I became aware that while my body was unresponsive, my mind was hyper-aware. I could perceive layers of reality beyond normal senses, the residual echoes of the entity now safely contained. "He's in a comatose state," Dr. Green said, tears in her eyes. I wanted to tell her I was still here, that I'd succeeded, but I was trapped within myself. Over the following days, I observed from within as the team secured the containment system. News of our success was kept confidential, the official story being a technical malfunction leading to my condition. Dr. Collins, now free from the entity's influence, was released, but struggled with guilt over her actions. The institute was shut down temporarily, and the team disbanded. Dr. Tan returned to his previous research, while Dr. Green visited me regularly, reading aloud and hoping for a sign of recovery. Months passed. Though my body remained inert, my consciousness existed in a state between worlds. I had glimpses of conversations, of Dr. Green's life, of the quiet moments she spent by my side. One day as she sat reading, I felt a surge of clarity. Gathering all my remaining strength, I willed a single movement. My finger twitched. She gasped, hope lighting up her face. "Alex, can you hear me?" I tried again, and this time my eyelids fluttered open. The room came into focus, and I saw her smile, relief washing over her. "Welcome back," she whispered, taking my hand. Recovery was slow, but over time, I regained my faculties. The entity remained securely contained, monitored under strict protocols. In the aftermath, we reflected on the profound cost of our pursuit. The psychological scars ran deep, but there was solace in knowing we'd averted a greater catastrophe. Dr. Green and I became closer, bound by the shared experience. Together, we advocated for more stringent ethical considerations in research involving unknown entities. As for me, I carried the memories of both worlds, the weight of an entire civilization's end and the fragile beauty of my own existence. In quiet moments, I wondered about the entity, now isolated but still alive in its own way. Perhaps one day we might find a way to coexist without harm. Until then, we remained vigilant, guardians against the unseen threats that lurk in the vast expanse of the cosmos.